Ladies and gentlemen, we are now beginning and moving on to our next session, next keynote. We've already had the first half day of 4 years from now, 2018. How's it going? Is it going well? Have you had any jamon, perhaps? Maybe, I don't know. You've had some coffee, had some food, conversations moving forward. So remember our hashtag. We've got our hashtag going 4 years from now, 18, 4 years from now, 18. Everything that happens here, well, not absolutely everything, but all the good stuff that happens here, really important to share that and get it away, get it out there, so that, as I say, all your colleagues, wherever they are in February, maybe in cold places around the world, working hard, the beginning of the week, let them do that, and you can enjoy it here. And just pop all your pictures on Facebook, pop all your pictures on social, so that they can all be jealous of exactly all the great things that are happening here. Right, let's move on to our next session. So startups, businesses, succeeding, it's a tough thing. But the next speaker on stage, he's going to share with you his insights and give you quite a lot of motivation and quite a few ideas that every single business, whether you're a small business, startup, a large company, thinking about starting a business, will be of value. Please welcome to the stage the author of the Startup J-Curve, Mr. Howard Love.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so fired up to be here today. I love Barcelona. You know what? The odds are, you guys know this, that the odds are that most startups fail. And what I'm going to teach you, what I'm going to sort of go through here today is going to greatly increase your odds of success. If you're a founder or working in a startup, what I'm going to share with you today is something that over the past 35 years of my career of being in startups, where I've started or co-founded 15 companies and been an angel investor in about 60 companies, I came to realize over time that startups follow a well-defined path. And I call that the Startup J-Curve. And we're going to have some kind of fun here today. I'm going to walk you through the 6 steps of the J-Curve, and then we're going to invite people up on stage and we want you to bring your biggest startup challenge. Like, every startup is tough, and you're definitely, facing challenges every day. And for everyone who comes up, we're going to give you a copy of the book, and we're going to help you with with your particular problem. So just think about that. Think about the big thing that you are facing that you'd love to solve. Okay. So first of all, let's start with the myth. The myth of most startups is that it's a hockey stick. You sort of start right here, down here, and you get you have your product idea. You sort of get your team together. You raise a little money. You work on it, you come out with that first version of your product, second version, and so forth, and you're sort of building value all the way, and it ends up in a great big hockey stick. What's the revenue? A lot. What's the time? Real short. And that's the startup myth that I think most first-time entrepreneurs kind of, get into. And again, what I'm going to go through is what I've seen happens to most startups, and the purpose is that by knowing this path, you're going to know where you are and what you should be focusing on at any given point in your startup journey. Step 1 is called create. And that's obviously when you have your startup idea, you kind of pull your team together, you may raise some initial capital and so forth, and it's a time of great excitement. And I call it dreams unburdened by reality. Like, you're sitting around, you're having a big old time, you're super excited, you put together a great business plan. It's actually a pretty good time to raise money and so forth, because there's no data. And, that's kind of one of the most people look back on that as sort of one of the most fun and exciting and vibrant times. Then we get into the release phase. you have your team together and create, you start working on the product, and at some point it becomes time to actually release it. And that contains a whole host of challenges. The challenges are part real, like it just always takes longer to develop software or develop your hardware or technology or whatever than you originally expect. And also, there are just very real sort of psychological barriers, like perfectionism, sort of tinkering syndrome, feature creep, bloat, and fear of failure, fear of being judged once it's out there. And so I see this time and time again with startups. And it's hard to get a product out. And it's just, it's a great challenge. The response is just do whatever you can to get it out. And what normally happens when the first product is released, and it's much excitement and much fanfare, is actually usually a disappointment in the market. It goes out there, and the first product just rarely works, and that's just been my experience. And as I had fun doing the research to write the book, that is, if you look into the histories of many famous companies, you'll see that is the case. So then you go. Once you get over sort of the original disappointment, the successful companies go into a morph phase. They say, okay, well, we're not giving up. The first product, obviously is not going to be the big one, but we're not going to give up, and we're going to, start iterating, and we're going to see, which of these, which of the features in our product the people actually, the market actually cares about, and we got to figure out how to make a business here. And the morph becomes one of the most important parts of the J-curve. And the proper way to do the morph is, you release, as I said, that's phase 2. It doesn't work, you don't get customer traction, so you study the data, you see what in the product people actually, care about and use, and then you sort of morph the product towards that, and you sort of fade or put aside or just delete the features that maybe you originally thought were great but aren't. Release, and you sort of keep that process up until you get customer traction. Customer traction is ultimately how you know you're done with the morph phase. And it is a morph because you start off with the original business plan, and the successful companies that go on usually end up with a product and or service that looks nothing like the original business plan. A couple of examples. I don't know, has anyone ever heard of a company called Bourbon? Well, the original Bourbon was a check-in application not dissimilar to Foursquare. And it could not get traction that Foursquare had, but the founders realized that that people were interested in the photos and sharing the photos, and actually the founders had an interest in photography. So they kind of swung the product hard towards that, and that became Instagram. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Odeo, but Odeo was originally a podcasting service that, when they released it, Apple was coming out with a similar service and so forth, and it just didn't really grab hold. But I don't know if you noticed the little Tweety bird in there, and that ultimately, that company became Twitter. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of The Point. This is kind of the point is the point is that no one has heard of these original sort of products. But The Point was originally a social collaborative service that would sort of bring people together to solve social problems. And that didn't really work. And at one point, they were really kind of a complete bomb, and the founder said, well, why don't we just use it to sell pizza, because their office happened to be on top of a pizzeria, which they did, and it promptly sold out the pizza rather quickly, and that became Groupon. And history's full of these types of examples. I'm not just selectively picking, but it's not just famous examples that I'm showing here, but in my experience, it's the vast majority of companies. maybe 90%, depending on sort of who you ask. Slack was originally a gaming company. PayPal was meant for mobile payments, which it eventually became, but not before establishing itself really as a web payment system for eBay and so forth. And just to show you that this isn't like a new phenomena, Wrigley's was actually in the baking soda business, and they gave away gum as an incentive to sell the baking soda. Turns out people love the gum more than the baking soda. So, if you think of the curve, what we're going through here, if you think about sort of, where we are in the journey here, is it's a very, very tough period as you're sort of, your initial product, first of all, took longer to get out than you think, and then it hits the market with a little bit of a thud. Now you have data, except it's not that great, and it's a very, very tough time to raise money. Investors aren't returning the calls and so forth. So I call this sort of the long, cold winter. And these first 4 phases are the long, cold winter. That's really where startups are made or broken. And so after morph is the model phase. And the model is where you try and figure out how to make money from your product. And what's important is that these steps are sequenced because it doesn't make sense to spend a whole lot of time, if much time at all, on model if you don't really know what the product is. And if you sort of look back on the whole process, what you realize is that your original business plan and so forth, the original product idea was really more of a hypothesis than what ultimately becomes the company. So models where you try and figure out the business model and focus on, really building a business model with high margins and scalability and hopefully some viral network effects and so forth. And this happened with one of our companies where we originally thought with FlexJobs that we were going to be selling to the HR departments, and we flipped the whole thing on its head and ended up selling to actually the job seekers, and that company became a great success. And then after you have the model, now you have something you can scale because you've sort of brought it all together. And scale involves people, process, and money. And scale would seem like the most fun part. Turns out to be very, very hard and sort of full of its own host of challenges. The trick is not to scale before you nail the product and the business model. Because if you scale something that's imperfect, it's just going to be a larger imperfect, which implies a lot more burn, implies a lot more, just kind of pain and suffering, because you still have to go back and solve all the problems with the product and the model. It's kind of like, if you have a race car and the parts are loose, you can maybe go around the track at 20 miles an hour, but you can't go around the track at 200 miles an hour, or things are going to blow up. Very tricky people issues. The people you had at the beginning of, during the long, cold winter who got you through that very frequently struggled to stick with the company as you go into the scale phase, because in the scale phase you need more specialized people that are in more siloed roles as opposed to sort of roamers who are generalists and sort of just general problem solvers. The final phase is harvest, and harvest is where now things are actually getting good. You're generating positive cash flow. The business is working. You are, in a wonderful position, and you're sort of chasing what I would call puffball problems. Puffball problems are decision A, I win. Decision B, I win bigger. There's sort of lots of fun things you can do when you're in harvest mode. Be it grow, reinvest your cash flow for growing, reinvest it into growing your brand, acquisitions, stock buybacks, distributions to shareholders, and possibly an IPO. That's kind of, the nirvana for me is, when you get there, because you actually don't have to, you're not raising money anymore, and as I say, you have this cash flow, it gives you great flexibility and lots of fun choices. So that's the startup J-curve, and that's the journey. And I'm summing it up kind of quickly here, but each one of those, it's so important to know where you are and what phase you're in, because every phase has its challenges, and which are mostly known, and there are very specific methodologies and solutions to those challenges, which are also pretty well known, at least the methodology for attacking them. And so that's why I wrote the book. And it's a journey, and the J-curve describes that journey, and that hopefully with having it, you'll be in a much better chance to succeed, and you'll also get from startup to success quicker, and frankly, it's just a lot more enjoyable because you have much more of a sense of why things are happening the way they are. So I kind of ran through that, but I wanted to leave a little bit of time. If anyone if anyone has a startup challenge and wants to come up, and talk about it, be a brave soul, come on up, and I'd love to, and if you want to share it, then I can usually kind of point where we are for your issue in the J-curve, and kind of give you an idea of how you might look at it. Any takers? Yes, sir. Come on up. All right. Thanks for coming. What's your name? Eduardo, how are you?
Fine.
Good. We might need a microphone. Do we have a microphone? Okay. Okay. What's your biggest challenge? What's your startup?
We have a startup that it's called Rule Center. Rule Center is a startup that automates the compliance plans for companies.
Yep.
The compliance in Spain have started only 2 years ago.
Okay.
So, and it's not, actually, even lawyers don't know how to apply it for businesses right now,
Okay.
but we want to apply the compliance plans for all small businesses in Spain and to
Yep.
make it very cheap and very simple.
Okay.
But we're having a very big problem because right now we know the clients, even the clients don't know.
Don't
we
know
don't- we
about
don't-
you or the product?
Exactly. We know that they will need it in the future.
Yep.
And we're already developing, but we don't know how to reach the clients.
Have you started selling the product?
We have one client only.
You have one client.
And
Okay.
we
that's
started
something.
two weeks ago with that client, but we started the startup over 1 year ago.
Okay, that's fine.
So-
Yeah. By the way, to go through the long, cold winter is frequently 3 to 7 years. So it takes a long time. You're not behind. That's fine. So you're pretty clearly in the sort of release phase, and you're going into the morph phase. Okay? You've released the product. You have a customer, which is awesome. Congratulations. But you know you're done with the morph phase when customers are pulling that product out of your hand. And what you've said very clearly is you still pushing it into their hand.
Yes,
right?
it's very
I mean, you
difficult
are.
to close
Right?
a sale.
Yeah, that's fine. Very frequent, right? So, the best thing to do is don't think about money. Don't think about, don't overthink big contracts and everything else. What you need in the morph phase, because you may not have the product exactly right? You don't really know. You have one customer, and hopefully you're getting some data from that. That's great. But the morph phase, you need data, right? You need customers. You need them much more than they need you, right?
Yes.
So my advice usually for someone in your situation is forget about price, make it free, simplify, figure out one core area where you can add value and make it a freemium model, right? Come to the website, everybody gets it.
Well, we already started doing that.
Good.
We had like 100 trials, 120 trials, and
Good.
only one person actually bought the program, and
Okay.
we made it free.
That's fine. But you have 100. So that's 100 data points you can go to. You need to call those 100. The data is the important thing, not the customers, right? Not paying customers. The most important thing you need right now is data, right?
Yes.
So get on the phone to those 100 customers, go see them personally, talk about it. Why did you download it? What did you think we were doing? Is there anything that interests you? Just as many of those conversations as you can have. And usually what you'll find is about the 20th customer, you're going to start to hear the same thing, right? And that's the most important thing to get right now, right? Because if you can nail that, then you're going to morph the product around that, which means you're going to leave some stuff behind, right? And not worry about it, which is great. It simplifies life, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to get to the point that once you nail that, you're going to get to the point that people start pulling it out of your hands. And that's when you know you're done with morph and you go on to model, and then you worry about making money.
Okay.
Thanks
you very
for
much.
coming up, Eduardo.
Thank you.
Good. I really appreciate it. Here's a copy of the book.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up, and then, young lady, you're next. Okay? All right, come on up.
Hi there.
What's your name?
My name is Teddy.
Teddy. Awesome. Welcome. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Describe your problem and your challenge as quickly as you can.
All right, so I'm building a startup right now in the Netherlands. It's called Spaceable. And what we're doing is it's kind of like Airbnb, but it's for creative temporary spaces. So think about photo studios, film studios, all these kinds of spaces. There's a lot of demand for it, and there's a lot of people actually providing these kinds of spaces. And there's a bridge between them that is hard to cross. And I guess I'm kind of in the creating space time right now.
Well, we can find out. First of all, do you have any spaces?
Yes, I have about 50 that are willing to do it right now, but the biggest problem for me right now is creating the platform. And I need someone who's doing a lot of financial stuff. I need someone who does the legal stuff. I need someone who does
you can
the
rent those. Financial, and you really can. I mean, you can get bookkeepers and stuff like that. That's inexpensive. Legal, rental also. You haven't told me any full-time people you need yet.
No, but I'm doing it together with one business partner. He's building a website.
Okay.
And I guess the biggest problem for me is that I need, I'm starting it with a minimal viable product, but I do need a lot of people with a certain expertises. And
you need what?
With a certain expertises.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to find those without having the money to actually...
Give me an example of expertise.
For example, legal.
Nah, legal, you buy them. No big deal.
Okay. Someone who's going to do marketing and someone who's going to do...
That's you. You're a founder. And I can tell you're a good salesman.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You can?
Sure.
Why?
Well, it's your baby. No one can sell it like you.
That's true.
Don't forget about the salesman. Forget about the legal. You can, there's, wonderful legal here in Barcelona. And most of those guys, by the way, will, a lot of times the legal will, defer their bills or whatever. Yeah. And it's not that expensive. And frankly, your legal needs, I don't think, are that complicated. I think you want to focus on you doing it, actually. There's no substitute for it. When you're in this super early phase of create, which you are, you're sort of somewhere between create and release, it sounds like. There's no substitute for you doing it. I can list off 10 disadvantages of actually having a salesman. They're expensive, they don't love the product like you, and you're not going to be getting the most direct feedback, right? So you want to be out there talking to the customers. What can I do for you? What do you want? What can I, what are you not seeing in the marketplace? What can I do that you can't already get? And you are the best person to do that. And you're already here.
I guess so. All right.
All right.
Yeah.
You, baby.
Me.
And you don't need any money.
Well, something you should do.
Thank you very much, Teddy. Really appreciate it. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Priscilla.
Priscilla. Pleasure
Nice
to meet
to
you.
meet
Thank
you.
you for coming up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have the Beta app. I'm hoping some of you have heard of it before. So it's a drink-a-day subscription here in Barcelona.
A drink a day.
Yeah. So you pay
Sounds
10.
tempting. Does that include wine?
It does.
Okay.
Wine,
Sign me up.
beer, cocktails, anything.
Yep.
So basically, our members pay €10 a month, and they receive one free drink every day at any of our partner bars in Barcelona.
Okay.
We work with 50 bars now.
Yeah.
We're definitely in the morph stage, so
Okay.
we've launched the app. It launched in May of last year.
Great.
The thing is, the numbers of subscribers aren't really taking off.
Yes.
And I'm not doing this for it to be a lifestyle business, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So how do we make this scale to a point where it's actually a really attractive business?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, congratulations for, you have 50 bars, and did you say, how many bars?
50 bars,
50 bars signed up, and you've got a product. Are people using it?
People are using it. We've had over 4,000 drinks
Okay.
claimed in Barcelona.
Okay.
This is a model from the US. It seems to be doing a lot better in the US than it is here.
Yeah.
So it could be a market-specific thing.
Yes.
But we're doing tweaks. We're doing testing right now on the app to
Yeah.
get to that.
Yeah. Well, you are in the morph phase,
Yeah.
I think, because you have released the product. You do have users. You do have, you have a two-sided marketplace, right? Because you need to get the bars, and you also need to get the users.
Yeah.
And there's actually value in the bars, and there's value for the users. And you need to figure out how to get the bars to offer enough value that the users come, right? So you kind of have a sales job to do with the bars and cafes, right?
Yeah, right.
You are in the morph phase, and you need to try stuff. The beauty of your app and so forth is you can try promotions like every day or two, and just find a handful, 5, 6, 7, 8 cafes and bars that are willing to really work with you. You already know who those are, right?
Absolutely.
They're friends. They're friends of you and friends of the app.
Yeah.
And you need to just start sitting down, having a drink with them, and getting creative about different offers, because whatever you have right now, it's not quite enough, as you've said, to break through. People are not, they're not pulling it out of your hand, right?
Right.
And that's what you want. So you have to figure out how to deliver enough value to them that they start pulling it out of your hand, and that they start downloading it. And I suspect a big thing is, you want them to send it to their friends and invite their friends. And,
Absolutely, yeah.
And maybe, for example, maybe if 4 people come, they get 2 drinks, right? If all 4 come as a group, right? I mean, it's just a crazy idea. But you got to come up with 20 of those crazy ideas, and just watch the data, and then as the data comes in, do more of that, and obviously do less of the stuff that nobody's really caring about. You've got a phenomenal ability to get, data. So.
Okay, well, it seems like we're doing the right thing then.
Yeah, keep going. Just keep going. You got to just keep morphing, keep iterating.
Okay, great.
Right? Thanks for coming up, Priscilla. All right. Thank you very much. So again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys coming up, and feel free to come back and see me afterwards, if you're looking for a little additional color or whatever. I've really appreciated being here today. Today is, first of all, I mean, when I first came to Barcelona, it was to speak for my friend Jordi Aguska and Axio, and I fell so in love with the city that we opened up an office here. And this is Oriol Corol right here, and he is running our office in Barcelona for my company, LoveToKnow.com. It's a digital media company, and we are hiring like crazy, engineers, product managers, designers, and so forth. And take down jobs at bcn.lovetoknow.com or Oriol's email, or email me direct. We'd love to hear from you if you're interested or know someone who might be interested in coming to work for us. As I say, we're hiring like crazy. We love Barcelona. We love Barcelona. Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're moving on swiftly onto our next session. Facebook, you've heard of them before. I'm sure you have. A Next Gentleman Facebook.